Hi everybody, so today we're going to talk a little bit about narrative painting, paintings that tell a story, and the idea of storytelling in pictures and art has been around since prehistoric cave painting. Many of my own pictures have a narrative base. Sometimes I will use my imagination, sometimes I might draw upon a factual event. Sometimes I might mix things together, one scenario with another. Sometimes I might just say, suppose this happened, or suppose that happened. It depends upon my creative impulses, really, which can change from time to time. Many painters have influenced my sense of narrative, but particularly the early 20th century British modernist artists, the whole generation of artists who graduated from the Slade School at the turn of the 20th century. So people like Stanley Spencer, Edward Burrough, William Roberts, and Mark Gertler, painters who tended to put jigsaws together, and the paintings were often quite busy with lots going on. Stanley Spencer in particular, he was a big influence, and he would very often take ordinary scenarios, his hometown of Cookham for example, and make extraordinary things happen. Also Edward Burrough, another artist who would travel quite a lot, and he would straddle all sections of the social strata, and he would paint the high life and the low life of society, but again with a marvellous compositional dexterity. Also in a contemporary vein, Jock McFadden RA, who would use urban backdrops and have all kinds of strange characters peopling his pictures, but I like his loose painterly style where the paint would dribble and run quite a bit. But you know, all of these artists basically would deal with different aspects of the human condition. So this painting is based on a football theme bar in East London in Shoreditch Market called Bar Kick, and I wanted it to be a celebration really of all things football. So we've got lots of paraphernalia and memorabilia, but it's also about clubs and gangs and tribes and factions. And the toilet rolls, they are basically a reference to what used to happen at football matches in the 60s and 70s. People would throw toilet rolls through the air, and I wanted these toilet rolls to carve through the space of the picture. The big inflatables are a little bit of fun. Again, they're moving through the space and almost coming out and touching the viewer. And you can see there's lots going on, it's very busy, it's like a jigsaw. The painting basically evolved from lots of little drawings stitched together, but I was quite influenced by Stanley Spencer's murals at the Burclair Chapel, the Sandon Memorial Chapel in Burclair, particularly the main feature wall with all the crucifixes. So it's kind of homage to Stanley Spencer, but it's also about contemporary youth culture and modern social life. Okay, so this painting is all about shopping for cult objects of desire in design emporiums. And again, you know, it's very busy, and I wanted the characters to look quite doll-like, almost like fashionistas, because you know, going shopping in these kind of high-end design emporiums is a bit like being on a fashion catwalk. So I wanted the figures to almost be looking each other up and down, but at the same time to be kind of rather vacuous and as I say, rather doll-like. The objects are all kind of gleaned from various design magazines, you know, things that you would covet, that you would kind of like to own, but you know, very often too expensive. And so the picture was about this idea of coveting cult objects and design objects and so on. And you can see, again, you know, the space is very compacted. There's no respite for the eye. Everyone's queuing to pay at the till. This young girl's being bombarded with all these fashionistas buying all these lovely design objects. And when I was painting the picture, I was quite influenced at the time by Edward Burroughs' painting called Market Day, which he painted in 1926 with the strong, vibrant colours, the blues and the oranges. So this rather strange looking picture came from a visit to some friends in Italy. We stayed with them in Perugia, and we had some food in the garden. You've got a Sisi in the background, and we were watching the Champions League football final. But then as the evening progressed, we kind of drank more, and we started passing these joke masks around, these beer mats which you could clip onto your face. This obviously changes the character of everybody, and so we had this slightly kind of comedic scene really, where we were all flashing up these strange smiley beer mat masks. I wanted the painting to have a kind of twilight kind of atmosphere. I remember the evenings being very warm, quite humid, lovely warm kind of Mediterranean evening, and then, you know, it's all about the interaction of the figures, and the white tablecloth was quite an important pictorial device because I wanted that to be a strong negative against which all these dark shapes could be read. And so we have a strange, almost comic scenario going on. And at the time when I was painting this picture, I was influenced by two things. Firstly, by Stanley Spencer's painting of The Last Supper, which he made in 1920. And also I was looking at, or it reminded me of, 16th century Italian comedy dell'arte theatre. So I wanted it to be in this kind of little tent scenario, this almost medieval tent, which I thought made it look a little bit like a stage set with the curtains being pulled back, and these become actors and players on a stage. Another strange looking image. This picture is based on a local launderette around the corner, quite a rundown, grubby interior, and very often you get these strange characters in this place. But I wanted to put these two goths in there because I'm quite interested in fashion styling and you know, tribes and fraternities and gangs and so on. I just like the idea of these two styled figures being put into this rather drab interior. The third figure was just somebody in kind of relatively normal dress, just waiting for their washing to dry or whatever. The strange looking orthopedic legs, sometimes I just like to subvert the banality of an image and put something in there that's totally incongruous, so it looks like it doesn't go in there. And although the orthopedic legs are symbols of pain and suffering, I guess you could also say, you know, they're symbols of hope and recovery and salvation. So I wanted those to be a little odd element which kind of fired the viewer's curiosity and basically allowed the viewer, inviting the viewer sometimes to project their own narrative onto things. You set a supposition and say, right, suppose this happened, what does that make you think about? So basically, guys, you know, all narrative art is storytelling. It could be through a single scene, or it could be through a series of pictures, sequential. It could be allegorical, which means it has a little hidden meaning in there, or it could deal with any aspect of your life. Art historically, you've got things like myth and religion and war, so history painting, but it's up to you what you want to do with it. Make it autobiographical, have fun with it, and tell us a story.